I've sat here and listened particularly to the opening comments of the chairman and the ranking member. And in my time in the Senate, I have never heard comments quite like that coming from both sides of the aisle. And then I listened to your response, which was non-responsive, which went into something about FISA, unrelated to anything that had been said. I don't think you understand what's happening in the Department of Justice. The diminution of credibility, integrity. It's almost as if the walls were actually crumbling on this huge department. And I listened to you, and nothing gets answered directly. Everything is obfuscated. You can't tell me that you went up to see Mr. Comey for any other reason other than to reverse his decision about the terrorist surveillance program. That's clearly the only reason you would go to see the Attorney General in intensive care.
May I respond to that?
Yes, you may.
Okay, you're right. This was an extraordinary event, but we were confronting extraordinary circumstances where we had been advised that something that the department had authorized for 2 years, they would no longer continue to approve. We had just been advised by the congressional leadership, go forward anyway. And we felt it important that the Attorney General, General Ashcroft, was aware of those facts. Clearly, if we had been competent and understood the facts and was inclined to do so, yes, we would have asked him to reverse the DAG's position.
Well, then why would he have said Mr. Comey is in charge if you hadn't asked him?
I don't understand the question.
Well, clearly you asked him the question because James Comey testified to us that
my recollection, Senator, is, and of course, this happened some time ago, and people's recollections are going to differ. My recollection is that Mr. Ashcroft did most of the talking. At the end, my recollection is he said, I've been told it would be improvident for me to sign, but that doesn't matter because I'm no longer the Attorney General.
Okay.
And
right.
Once he said that, Secretary Card and I didn't press him. We said thank you, and we left.
Okay.
But again, we went there because we thought it important for him to know where the congressional leadership was on this. We didn't know whether or not he knew of Mr. Comey's position, and if he did know, whether or not he agreed with it.
All right. I think we've taken care of this. What I'd like to establish once and for all is who put the names on the list to fire what are now 9 U.S. attorneys. Since you were here last, we've had a number of your top staff appear before us. Kyle Sampson, your former chief of staff, said, I was the aggregator of input that came in from different sources. Paul McNulty said it was presented to me as here is the idea, and here are the names of individuals that are being identified. Jim Comey said, I was not aware there was any kind of process going on. Bill Mercer said, I didn't understand there was a list. I didn't keep a list. Mike Battle, a decision was made to compile a list. It was made by someone. I had no input. Nobody asked for my input. Will Michella, since I was not part of that process, I don't have firsthand knowledge. Mike Elston, Kyle asked me to give him my thoughts, give him a draft list. I said, sure. I didn't actually do it. I was very busy. Who approved those names?
I ultimately approved the list of recommendations that were submitted to me.
And how many names did you approve for firing?
I think on the list that was presented.
No, total. How many names have you approved for firing?
You mean total? For cause, not for cause? I'd have to get back to you on that.
There were 7 on December 7th.
7 on December 7th.
We're now up to 9 that we know about. How many, this is important, how many U.S. attorneys did you approve to be summarily fired?
Senator, there may have been others. I would be happy to get back to you with that kind of information about who has left, but I don't know the answer to your question. But I can certainly find out.
Don't know after all we've been through, the hearing after hearing after hearing?
Well, in connection with this review process that Mr. Sampson was coordinating, what was presented to me was a list of 7 individuals on December 7th. And so those are the 7 that I accepted the recommendation to ask for the resignation.
That's right. But those were the ones that were called on December the 7th
yes.
and told to leave by January 15th.
Yes.
There were others also asked to resign.
Yes.
And I'm asking what the total number were.
Well, certainly Mr. Cummings was asked to leave. Mr. Graves was asked to leave. I'm not aware, sitting here today, of any other U.S. attorney who was asked to leave, except there were some instances where people were asked to leave, quite frankly, because there was legitimate cause.
So you're saying these were asked to leave because the cause was not legitimate?
I'm not, no, what I'm saying is wrongdoing, misconduct. There may have been some, in fact, I'm sure there were others.
What kind of misconduct?
Well, and I'm not suggesting any of this conduct happened, but for example, an inappropriate relationship, taking action that is where you have a direct conflict of interest to help out a buddy, making those kinds, something like that I would say would constitute misconduct. And there
Were those specific things involved in any U.S. attorney that was terminated?
No. With respect to the 7 and with respect to Mr. Cummings and with respect to Mr. Graves, I am not aware that, certainly it was in my mind, a problem or a basis to accept the recommendation that they be asked to leave.
All right, let me go to something else. You, of course, recognize these books. Federal Prosecution of Election Offenses. In prior hearings, we had the 1995 edition. Since May of this year, there is now a new edition. I'd like to read to you what has been dropped from the earlier edition. The first thing that's been removed is this. The Justice Department generally does not favor prosecution of isolated fraudulent voting transactions. This is based in part on constitutional issues that arise when federal jurisdiction is asserted in matters having only a minimal impact on the integrity of the voting process. This was removed in this new edition. The second thing, the Justice Department must refrain from any conduct which has the possibility of affecting the election itself. This is weakened on page 92. This language is removed. Federal prosecutors and investigators should be extremely careful to not conduct overt investigations during the pre-election period or while the election is underway. Removed. Then, a sentence that's underlined in the 95 edition, which states thus, most, if not all, investigations of an alleged election crime must await the end of the election to which the allegation relates, was removed in this new edition. Weakened was this language. It should also be kept in mind that any investigation undertaken during the final stages of a political contest may cause the investigation itself to become a campaign issue. Why was it necessary to remove this language in this new edition of the Federal Prosecution of Election Offenses rules?
Senator, sitting here today, I don't know the answer to that question. I would like to find out because I am certainly committed to ensuring that we're smart in the way that we do investigations and prosecutions, and we do so in a way that doesn't intimidate voters, that doesn't chill potential voters from coming out and voting on Election Day. So I would like the opportunity to look into this and respond back to you.
Appreciate it. It becomes more relevant because 2 and possibly 3 of the fired U.S. attorneys were fired because they didn't bring those small cases that might affect an election. And therefore, when one looks at this book now, sees a new book coming out in May '07 that deletes the very things that these U.S. attorneys were told to follow, something's rotten in Denmark.
Thank you for the opportunity for me to look in that.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My time is
Thank
up.
you very much, Senator.